I'd like to read out this review of the Second Doctor's era from the DWRG website, the Doctor Who Ratings Guide by fans for fans. This is written by one Stephen Maslin. It was published in 2011, the 17th of April. Last of the black and white moderns. Architectural historian Charles Jenks once said that the death of modernism could symbolically be given a very precise date and time. 3 p.m. March 16, 1972, when, less than 20 years after its construction, the Brut Igo housing project began to be demolished. It was seen an admission that a particular style of building was a failure and that perhaps one form of certainty about how lives could be improved had been false. Similarly, one might also point to the Tate LaBianca murders and the violence at the Altamont Free Festival only a few years before, sounding the death knell for the optimism of the hippie era. Thus it could be said that around this time we have a cultural breakpoint between the radical certainties of the modern that had defined European culture for the preceding 60 years and the moral ambiguities of the postmodern. Why mention all this here? Well, the transition of Doctor Who from the 1960s to the 1970s, the most obvious in its turning the corner from monochrome to colour, is in reality much more than that. Compare the War Games, 2nd Doctor 1969, with the Sunmakers, 4th Doctor 1977. In the latter, the good guys are as wicked as the bad guys, both camps quite willing to indulge in the torture of complete strangers. The Doctor makes an existential choice to help one side rather than another, for his own reasons, not from any actual evidence of moral superiority. Contrast that with the evil eye athwart that the 2nd Doctor refers to during his trial in the final episode of the War Games. The implication is that he knows what evil is, that we know what evil is, that there can indeed be certainty about what is right and what is wrong. The Time Lords do not dispute this moral view, and the Doctor's defence rests solely upon it. The Second Doctor era is defined by such black and white morality, rather than merely by black and white film, and separates 60s Doctor Who from what it follows. 2 stories into the Pertwee era, for example, we had the Brigadier blowing up the Silurians, and from 1973 onwards, we had target books of almost every character painted in shades of grey. By the time we get to the Virgin New Adventures, even the Doctor is. It is tempting to feel that the Second Doctor era is by implication culturally unsophisticated, but with certainty comes conviction, not just in its moral systems, but in the making of the program itself. The producers not only made the best show they could, in less than ideal circumstances, but for what they saw as the best reasons, in the spirit of BBC founder Lord Reef, to educate, inform and entertain, and certainty in a brave, new, as yet untarnished future had unexpected rewards. Certainly in a brave new as yet untarnished future had unexpected rewards. For example, many of the Troughton stories sound like nothing else, the embracing of the radiophonic workshops, then cutting-edge electronica, producing not only futuristic effects, but also some breathtaking soundscapes. The Wheel in Space may not stand out as a particularly great story, but there are some quite beautiful and innovative collages of sound, and it is by no means unique in that regard. Now, getting rid of things was something of a habit in 1960s Britain. Early on in the decade, the British government, in a fit of Villefort modern zeal, short-sightedly decided to get rid of about a third of its railways, and Doctor Who later had its own house clearing, the junking of great swathes of 60s episodes. The result is that, alas, half of the Second Doctor's TV stories are now missing. This has had a profound effect on how we think of the Second Doctor era, with a sense of loss as elusive and unreachable. When The Tomb of the Cybermen was returned to the fold in the early 90s, its status as a classic was somewhat diminished, when it was found to be a lot less awe-inspiring than the myth it had engendered. So a black and white show, both literally and metaphorically, yet whose worth is often expressed more in terms of its absence. The companions of that time are often seen as lacking depth, but if that means having a Liz Shaw or a Barbara Wright or a Turlough, then give me an entertaining twosome like Ben and Polly any day. This brings us to a third important element of the Second Doctor era. It's really good fun. Innocent, wide-eyed, gosh and jolly fun. It's lovable in a way that William Hartnell and John Pertwee or Colin Baker stories rarely are, though it did have its serious side. Parts of Season 5 are rather bleak in tone. At the same time, it has left us with some quite brilliant and unexpected television. It's hard to credit that something as weird as The Mind Rubber was ever broadcast at Saturday tea time, or that scary lost classics like The Web of Fear or Fury from the Deep was ever considered suitable family viewing for that time of day. The big surprise, however, is just how good so much of it really was. On DVD, there is precious little, but one should not be without The Mind Rubber. Doctor Who has never been more inventive. I don't know if I agree with that, but whatever, we can move on. The Invasion, the iconic precursor to the Pertwee era, with marvellous animated reconstructions of the missing episodes, and the War Games, 10 episodes long, so expect a couple of the middle episodes to drag a little, though most of it is great entertainment, astonishing if one considers the budget. The Lost in Time DVD set has 4 particularly noteworthy orphan episodes. The Faceless Ones, episodes 1 and 3. Why can't we have a complete version of that story and not The Seeds of Death? Oh, Seeds of Death is great. Come on, don't be like that. The Evil of the Daleks episode 2 and The Web of Fear episode 1, with the latter have said so convincing that London Underground demanded to know how the BBC had broken into one of their tube stations. Of the audio-only stuff, check out The Macro Terror, narrated by Colin Baker, The Web of Fear, Fraser Hines, The Wheel in Space, Wendy Padbury, and The Underwater Menace, Anik Wills. Personal favourites are the Tom Baker first-person narrated version of Power of the Daleks, Fury from the Deep, and Evil of the Daleks, if you can track them down. For the sound quality, the Fraser Hines CD versions are better. Of the scant original fiction, Steve Lyons' The Murder Game, and Mark Gaddis' The Roundheads are well worth a read. All of the above would be of no consequence had not Patrick Troughton successfully achieved the near impossible, becoming a new version of a well-established character in a way that even now seems distinctly odd. In fact, had he not done so, there would be no Doctor Who as we know it today. Without his so quickly winning over the viewing public and then turning in week after week of perfectly pitched performances, the show would not have survived to become the cultural colossus it is.